There are only a handful of countries that have legalized same-sex marriage. Canada, along with the Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, South Africa, Norway, Sweden, Portugal, Iceland, and Argentina. Other countries are following suit, including France, where the former First Lady, Carla Bruni Sarkozy, declared her support of same-sex marriage, despite the opposition of her conservative husband, former President Nicolas Sarkozy, but then stated at the same time that feminism is outdated. Bruni Sarkozy's statements may seem a little odd, given, as we've discussed earlier, that the voices who condemn homosexual behavior are the same ones who want to limit women's reproductive rights. As the promotion of sexual freedoms and the acceptance of sexual diversity become more the norm throughout the West, there have been forces of resistance that, under the guise of protecting traditional values or preserving traditional culture, undermine women's rights and the rights of lesbians and gay men. However, conservative reactionaries and cultural defenders do not, and should not, have a monopoly on defining marital love or family values. That is why feminists and gay rights activists must work hand in hand to realize equality, particularly in intimate relationships void of both male and heterosexual dominance. Marriage can be predicated on sexual equality, whether it is between an opposite sex or a same-sex couple. However, although feminists may be divided on whether marriage can ever be one of equals, and contrary to arguments of radical feminists, it can be, according to Anthony Giddens in his conception of pure relationship, the denial of marriage rights to same-sex couples is a legal barrier to a particular group, making them second-class citizens. As Nussbaum argues, marriage is a fundamentally liberty right of individuals, and because it is that, it also involves an equality dimension. Groups of people cannot be fenced out of that fundamental right. Canada legalized same-sex marriage in 2005, and in the United States, the 2012 election marked a turning point because not only did President Obama openly declare his support for same-sex marriage, unlike in the 2008 election, but for the first time in history, initiatives in 3 states, Maine, Maryland, and Washington, approving same-sex marriage passed, and in a 4th state, Minnesota, an initiative upholding a traditional definition of marriage as one between a man and a woman was voted down. As Morgan Freeman, a well-known actor, narrated in an ad for a human rights campaign right after the election, "America stands at the dawn of a new day. Freedom, justice, and human dignity have always guided our journey toward a more perfect union. Now across the country, we are standing together for the right of gay and lesbian Americans to marry the person they love." Given the heartbreaking loss during the 2008 election over California's Proposition 8, which took away newly won rights at that time of same-sex couples to marry in the state, lesbian and gay rights activists were elated. At the same time, lesbians and gays face discrimination in many parts of the world. As many have argued, the culture wars have in many ways moved abroad. The International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans, and Intersex Association keeps track of the status of lesbian and gay rights throughout the world. And principally in many parts of Africa and the Arab Middle East, the persecution of gays and lesbians has been ongoing. In addition, the United Nations Human Rights Council passed a resolution in September 2012 recognizing the importance of traditional values in promoting human rights. The focus on traditional values, as we know, is simply a code word to push back gay and lesbian and women's rights. Is the battle over in Canada and the United States? Are there still groups that oppose same-sex marriage in Canada despite its legalization in 2005? Does the passage of 4 state initiatives in favor of same-sex marriage in the 2012 election in the U.S. represent a turning point, even though 30 U.S. states remain opposed? What kinds of arguments are put forward by those who oppose same-sex marriage? To what extent are arguments against same-sex marriage reminiscent of arguments historically against interracial marriage? What do we find in the global context? Have the culture wars simply moved abroad? These are the kinds of questions that we will deal with in this module. I've asked you to read a short article outlining the legalization of same-sex marriage in Canada, as well as an excellent update of the U.S. situation since the 2012 election done by the New York Times. I've also asked you to watch a video entitled "The Problem with Same-Sex Marriage" by the Family Research Council. I have 3 goals in this module. First, I want you to compare the status of same-sex marriage in Canada and the United States. Are there any indications that Canada's law will be retracted? Given the results of the 4 state initiatives in the 2012 election, is the United States as a whole on the path to the legalization of same-sex marriage? Second, I want you to consider the arguments against same-sex marriage. I've asked you to watch a video by the US-based Family Research Council, a conservative Christian organization affiliated with Focus on the Family. Are there parallels between arguments against same-sex marriage and those historically against interracial marriage? Third, I want you to reflect on the culture wars, particularly in the United States, but also throughout the world. What countries or groups are embracing the importance of protecting traditional values? In the end, same-sex couples who want to marry do so for the same reasons as opposite-sex couples. We all want love, intimacy, and partnership. I look forward to class discussion this week.